So I've decided to do a video diary. I think it's important to get some ideas out there that I have. I especially during this pandemic situation. I really adhered to the quarantine deal. I spent a lot of time alone, so I'm pretty introspective now. And and then also there's a lot of things that go through my mind over the course of the day. And as I'm getting older, I'm experiencing like crazy anxiety attacks, which I know a lot of people have those. And especially women, older women, they say it's like part of menopause, hormones or whatever. There are times when I think that I'm going to literally die. I feel like my heart is going to explode out of my chest. I'm actually going to see a cardiologist on January 4th just to make sure that like my heart is not going to explode out of my chest. But anxiety is something that I dealt with, like I'm 55, so at about maybe 10 years ago, maybe more than that now. Gosh, actually, when my daughter passed away, so 1999 or 2000, I went to a primary care doctor and I was sobbing. I had just, lost my 18-month-old daughter not too long, previously, not very far in the past at that point. So I was diagnosed at that time with hyperanxiety disorder. Now, it went like beyond the grief process that, like after talking to the doctor several appointments in or whatever. And, so it was a diagnosis that, I feel is legitimate, and I also had like physical traits of something that, like that. And so it makes sense, right? And so I medicated for years and raising my kids for years, on the cocktail of antidepressants, Xanax, and then Ambien to sleep, right? So when my kids got older and things, settled down or whatever, and I didn't like being medicated all the time. I'm not that kind of person. Well, anyway, it's not about that kind of person. I don't know. I'd taken them and I was ready to stop. I think people go through that. Like everybody needs them sometimes, and then you don't or whatever. It's okay. You don't have to. So, now I'm older, and there's some life changes. Like the pandemic has given me an incredible amount of anxiety. Like getting masked back in March, not understanding the virus. Coming in contact with other people. We're all in that boat together, right? We all went through that anxiety, all of us, but not together. I was in my house, you were in your house, and it's almost like that experience, while it was very, it was nice to be home and have the downtime, at the same time, it also sparked like this. I feel like that's where the hyper anxiety came back into my existence, and then I'm watching all these changes. I in society, in my own neighborhood, my family. There's just so much going on so rapidly while we were all in the house separately, trying to deal with all this. And the long-term effect for me is that now I feel like my heart wants to explode out of my chest 90 times a day. Like now I should feel relief, and I should feel okay, and things are getting better, and maybe I'll get a vaccine, maybe I'm not gonna die and drown. Anyway, you see where I'm talking about? So this is the end of it all, right? Like my anxiety is worse now than it was 9-10 months ago, when it should have been and it was through the roof, but somehow I was maintaining it better, you know. I don't know. It's, you know, it's to the point where I have to go talk, I'm going to see a cardiologist. I want to talk to somebody about what's going on. I want them to, to look at my heart. I was born with a congenital heart defect. I do have a heart murmur, so there's that. I've known people that drop dead in their 50s, so, and you know what the shell is around all of this is what I hear my older friends, 10, 20 years older than me, 65, 75, and they're like, oh, hormones, it's hormones. I hope so. I hope so, because anxiety is reality for some of us, like me, like I'm suffering right now, and maybe it's age, but you know what, maybe it's the stress of dealing with a pandemic. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the stress of trying to survive, not making it to the finish line for all of us, or maybe like I have every right, to be in this shape and to, and to be scared, for my mental health, my physical health, at 55 years old. So I know there's a lot of people that are dealing with anxiety, and I think at some point anybody who had any type of an anxiety disorder, and on any level, the pandemic, while it slowed everything down and it brought us all to a different reality in some ways, it was also one of the hardest things we've dealt with collectively, individually, I think. For me it was, and it's an ongoing thing. And so, anxiety as a byproduct of that, I guess it stands to reason, right? So anyway, I just wanted to share that, because it's hard, so